Blog Talk Radio.
From Winston-Salem, it's Sunday Night Dead. Hi, this is the world's most interesting zombie, wishing all of you a very happy New Year.
This is Ignatius DM, wishing you all a happy New Year from Sunday Night Dead.
Hi, this is Vincent, wishing you all a very happy New Year from Sunday Night Dead. I hope you have better co-workers than I do.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the last Sunday Night Dead of 2012. Thank you for closing out the last weekend of the year with us tonight, right before they drop the big giant orb in Times Square in New York City, and we usher in 2013. Hope everyone had a great holiday week. Hope everyone had a relaxing time regardless of what you were doing this past week. And thank you very much for joining us tonight. We have a great show lined up. This is opinion night. So, as I've mentioned before, a lot of times with the paradrama out there, that it's kind of hard to claim yourself to be an authority on something that is all theory, and opinions are kind of like butts. Everyone's got one. So, but tonight's a night where we can kind of throw our opinions out there as to what we think's going on with things, or how we think things should be. And again, all the opinions here are valid, so we're going to be, we can disagree, but we're going to keep things at least respectful. As people know, I despise the sideshow drama that's going on out there. Had a big investigation last night. It was pretty interesting. A small hospital, but again, hospitals and insane asylums are my favorite thing to investigate. So this was kind of up in the mountains of North Carolina, and we had winds, unbelievable winds. I still have to look up on a weather website how windy it actually was, but I got to think it at least had to be like 50 miles an hour plus. I mean, just incredibly high winds, very cold. I've done things. I see John Cockhill in the chat room. I've done Penhurst when it was like near 100 degrees. I'm not sure if the folks from Dead Time are on tonight or not, but we did Tala when it was in the upper 90s. I will take heat and high humidity over a cold investigation any day of the year. It was fun, and we had a lot of good things to do, but it just, again, it kind of wears on you, and just the whole logistics of having things bundled up and running around a place kind of all bulky is just not as good as just going around with a bottle of water where it's really hot. All right, well, I would like to bring on our co-hosts first. With me tonight is Luana Kurz and Kelly Wirtz.
Hi,
How are you
guys.
doing tonight?
Hey, guys. Hello, I'm doing good.
And
How are
Kelly, I know
you?
your voice might not last, right?
No, I got hit by a pretty wicked cold, so. Oh.
I felt like I was going to have trouble. We got in at like 4:30 last night, and when I woke up, it was just spending 13, 14 hours in cold weather. Your body kind of gets funny with that, and so I woke up feeling like I was getting hit with something, but feel pretty good right now.
Mm-hmm. I did too. I'm actually fighting something.
Uh-oh.
But it's not that bad. I've been able to kind of knock it out before it got too terrible.
Oh, that is good. And we have two more people with us right now, but we have more that are possibly going to be calling in. So I would like to bring on Mr. Tracy Todd from Emerald Coast and Mr. Patrick McKenzie. How you doing, guys?
Hey, I'm good, and you?
Doing good, doing good.
How's it going, Matthew?
Good, good. Thank you for joining us tonight. This should be a fun show. And so, again, just opinion night, so people can weigh in on whatever they would like to chime in on the topics we're going to talk about, or if someone out there, either in the chat room or wants to call in with a question of their own, we can go ahead and do that as well. So the numbers, if anyone wants to call in, 646-929-2384, and then obviously you can feel free to weigh in on the chat. So we are going to kick this off right away, and I'm going to, Kelly, you get to be the one that gets put on the spot first, so I want to make sure I give you a chance to talk before your voice gets given out here. So the topic we're going to kick this off with is, so we all go out here and investigate and gather this evidence and do all these things under the paranormal umbrella. But at the end of the day, what do you actually think we're investigating? What do you honestly think is out there that we're actually recording and gathering data on?
Oh, goodness. You're going to make me think? Come on, Matt. I'm fine.
There's no right or wrong.
Well, at the end of the day, there's just so many things that we are chasing after It all really, I guess, it ties into, for some people, spiritual beliefs, whether they believe it's ghosts or spirits or entities, or for me, I don't know what we're chasing after, to be honest with you, because just when I think I've got this whole thing figured out, you get thrown for a loop, and like you said, there's no real expert to this, so, you know, sometimes I think I'm chasing my own tail sometimes, but, you know.
I'll narrow it down a little bit. Do you think at all you're interacting with anything with intelligence that's aware that you're actually interacting or trying to interact with it?
Yeah, I really do, because we've gotten, you know, some really good evidence that we have. Yeah, I think that we are interacting with something intelligent. Sometimes I think it's more intelligent than we are. That's probably why we don't have all the answers, because they're just, like, sitting back messing with us. So, you know, that would be, yeah. I think we are.
Well, it could be, and I don't know, maybe somebody will weigh in tonight on this. You know, some people believe that it's just random things that we are picking up and that we're ascribing, you know, some type of pattern or intelligence to it, which is partially why I do the Ghost or Host show here, just to try to see if how oftentimes random words actually line up with something that, you know, people could read into and think is actually something.
Oh,
but
yeah.
keeping everybody on their toes, and I'm just going to kind of randomly, we're going to go around around all the callers and let everybody weigh in on all these, but going to kind of go a little random here. So let's go to Tracy next. What's your opinion as to what are we actually investigating? What are we actually interacting with out here?
Well, I got to agree with Kelly. It's really hard to say exactly what we are, but I believe we are in contact with intelligent beings. For whatever reason, I don't know.
Okay. Patrick, how about you?
It's a very good question, and I really respect both Kelly and Tracy, and they're both friends of all of ours. I really agree with them, and at the end of the day, Matt, I think that we're looking at a lot of different things, and I think, truthfully, when you get to it, I think at the end of the day, that's really what we're doing, is trying to figure out what we're doing. If that makes any sense. We've all seen evidence of seemingly intelligent responses to what we do, and we've all seen evidence of seemingly non-intelligent responses to what we do. The real question is, you know, where are these responses being generated? And there's theories that, you know, they come from within ourselves, and I've seen evidence of, you know, that would support that theory. And then there's, of course, you know, a lot of evidence and investigating that we've done that we can, you know, do real valid research and go back and look, and when we come up with names and dates and different things, and we can put things together that we couldn't possibly have known the answers to, then, you know, that couldn't have come from within. So where is this coming from? And the truth of it is, in my opinion, we really don't know.
I think a very, very good answer. I'm going to go to Luana, but we have someone else joining us, so let's just go see who's calling in to join the fun here. Sunday Night Dead, who's calling in?
Happy holiday.
Hey, George, how are you? Ladies and gentlemen, the man responsible for the whole Dead Air family of shows here, Mr. George Lopez. Have you had a good holiday, sir?
Yeah. Any time that I can stay inside from the cold is a good holiday. That's the best way I could put it.
I have to say, I froze my butt off, and I'm not a cold weather person, but it was, and I know Kelly and some of the upper Midwest and mountain people are going to laugh at me here, but it was 21, and like I said, I'm guessing the wind was about 50 miles an hour. It was incredibly, incredibly fast, or, you know, strong winds going on there, and we're used to. I mean, we barely have been below freezing here in the Winston-Salem area prior to that. So that 20-degree shock and then the wind chill on top of it just was quite a shock.
That's when those when you breathe out, you get that mist, and then it's an apparition when you take your picture.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it was neat. It was a neat experience, and it was a neat place. So I was glad I was able to do it. So.
Well, as always, I normally work on Sundays. My schedule has changed nicely, and so I get actually a chance to listen in and join in the conversation tonight. I know it's an open forum, and so what are you guys talking about?
Well, we've been going around. We're going to have Luana weigh in on this next, but our first question on Opinion Night has been basically. At the end of the day, we're doing all these investigations and things. What do you think we're actually investigating? What are we actually interacting with? Is it something intelligent? Or are you interacting with just old energy? What do you think we're actually interacting with? So.
Well, at least you're starting off with the easy questions.
I got some softballs in here, and I got some tough ones. So we'll see. But I wanted something that we get some hopefully get some discussion going just to lead the whole thing off. So Luana, what are your thoughts?
I would agree with what. I'm sorry. Oh. Okay. I would agree with the other two and what they've said as far as intelligent. I definitely think there's intelligence out there. I think it's a combination of both stored energy that's left behind, and but I definitely believe the last 2 years of me investigating has really taught me a lot about opening my mind even further. From initially when I started being an investigator and what I thought it would bring light to, I just really feel like my experiences have taught me that to see more, I need to believe more as well. And so I think with the evidence that I've been able to, what I would call as evidence, I know that's disputed by some, but I think from what I've captured, it's really indicated that there is intelligence out there that is very much wanting to communicate with us. And, I think that sometimes my personal belief is that intelligence will select who they want to tell their story to and who they talk to and interact with, just like we do when we're alive. So there's a lot of questions I have. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it sounds so easy the way I stated it. Like, yes, it's out there. It's real. But, I mean, it's very, because nothing is proven per se, it's not just really black and white right now. It's a lot of gray.
No, I think a good answer. George, what are your thoughts?
Oh gosh, if you run the gambit of the amount of people that have been doing this research for 3+ decades, from the Rosemary Ellen Guileys to the John Zaffises, the David Roundtrees, Thomas Fusco's, and everybody's got a different perspective on what it is that we're dealing with, from the jinn to multidimensional creatures to, if you talk to Frank Sumption, it's aliens, to the fact of people who have crossed over. I mean, we run the gambit in what we do. We're still in such a small, the fetal stage of this field of study. We're still trying to develop our communication capabilities to the extent that we're able to ask those questions. To this day, I don't think that there's been an investigator out there who's been able to simply ask what happens after we die and get a clear, concise response. We normally get the get-outs and the FUs and the helps, but we don't get that full-on communication. We aspire to with the equipment that we have, and we train on our psychics and mediums who are out there trying to enhance the field as well. But until we can give that valid, established communication as evidence out there, it's anybody's guess what it is that we're communicating with.
I agree, and I'll put myself on the spot as well here. I kind of view it as I'm just data gathering here, so I'm not saying that I have a specific theory that I'm trying to prove or disprove. I'm just kind of seeing what the data seems to lead towards. But I personally believe it is people that have passed on, and in the instances of the things that are considered non-human, and we got a question coming up on that too, so I'll give that's a hint to everybody out there, that they are somehow some type of different dimension or interdimensional being that isn't from here. And if it's not somebody that has passed on, then I would say kind of the second theory that I would ascribe to would be the idea that it's our own thoughts or ability to, if you view our electrical field in our brains as kind of like a ability to kind of receive or put out energy, that we're somehow able to put out signals that are getting recorded. That's I know there's seen things. I've actually recorded some that it's like the Jedi mind trick. I've been in Tala, and I've recorded a voice say the ball, and like 10 seconds later I'm like, why doesn't somebody go get the ball? And then you get kind of into the chicken or the egg. Did someone actually say that on some level and I picked up on it and didn't realize it but then thought of the ball, or was I thinking the ball and that came out ahead of time, or was it a total coincidence? So,
or was the ball thinking?
So not sure, but that's, I honestly think it's people that have passed, but I think there's more, since we can't see that realm, and we're just like many of you mentioned, we're just kind of scratching the top of this whole field and area. There could be so many other things out there that we don't know, that I think the chances of interacting with things in addition to spirits of humans is definitely possible.
Agreed.
Going to quick add, if anyone has a question in the chat room that they would like to kick around the round table so that not everybody gets mad at me for throwing out hard ones here, feel free to go ahead and do so, or if you would like to call in and weigh in, the number is 646-929-2384. So going along those, well, I'm going to lighten it up here and go with something easier. So somebody going out and investigating, somebody new doing this, somebody listening in that just wants to try doing this. In your opinions, what would be the must-haves for someone who wants to investigate? Again, not I'm going to say seriously investigate, but I don't mean that you have to be top of the line as far as investing money or things, but somebody that actually wants to do a decent job going out on an investigation and their ability to actually do a good investigation of a location. Let's start with Patrick.
Equipment-wise, Matt?
Just equipment, just in general. If somebody wanted to get started on this, what would be some things that you would advice you would give them of things that they should have?
Well, I'm going to start. I'm going to go non-tangible to start with. First thing on my list is the right attitude and the right reasons. I feel personally, and this is just my opinion and my approach to it, but I believe that if you're not already intertwined with the paranormal or experience it in some level for some reason, I just suggest to people to leave it alone. If they're dead set or have sufficient reason to pursue it, equipment-wise, I just got started initially with a recorder and went out and tried to communicate and record EVPs. Some of my favorite equipment, I love all of it, and I don't have a whole lot myself and don't use a lot. I feel that my best tool is myself. But I really like the digital recorders, of course, for the EVPs. I like EMF meters, and I like to sweep a place first and try to get a base reading that, do I have any hot spots in there? Because as we all know, strong EMF naturally or even mechanically or electrically occurring can create hallucinations and various things that are interpreted as paranormal but really aren't. And I love taking lots of pictures, trying to capture photographic or videographic evidence. I employ laser pens and all that stuff, but most importantly, the strongest evidence to me in my mind are the EVPs. There's just, I don't see any tangible scientific explanation that can tell me that this non-human waveform voice providing an answer to me on a recorder that I didn't hear when the recording was made is just some of the strongest evidence that we can gather as investigators.
Sounds good. Tracy, what do you think? Did I lose Tracy?
I think he posted he had to step out for a bit.
Oh, well, I may have missed it. I'm sorry. The chat is, I really appreciate it. There's a lot of info coming in on the chat. I'm going to actually read some of these as well. But, okay, Kelly, thanks for helping me out. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to shock Patrick here and agree with him because we don't normally agree. I think, the recorder is definitely mine, but your heart, your attitude, you really got to have your mindset. This isn't just something to go and play with or, to do as something for fun, which, I mean, it is fun, but I think you really got to have your right mindset in it.
I hear an angry orb.
Yeah. They're protesting outside.
I thought it was Cujo.
George, what would you recommend?
5-hour energy drink and comfortable shoes.
Absolutely.
It's just like Patrick was saying. I mean, he's got a particular preference. I think it's to each individual's preferences as to what they want to utilize, what they feel that their speciality. I mean, I really believe, and I tell this with all my trainees and team members, saturation is key. And there's been people talking topically in the chat about what's the difference between intelligent and residual, and what you've been doing at Trans-Allegheny. I've had the privilege of going to Tala on 3 different occasions, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, and there's been places we've left unattended recorders and gotten responses. Now, whether or not that's a residual coming from the blue sandstone that the building is constructed from, or it's an actual intelligent response just echoing their emotions, we don't know. But the saturation, putting a multitude of digital audio recorders, a multitude of video cameras, and as much as equipment as you can possibly extend out there to capture. Just like a psychic medium, EMF detectors are great for locking down areas where you can see high EMF fields created to begin those sessions. But without that data collection, I always say this all the time, everything else is just a ghost story. You can tell everybody that you've been lifted up and thrown against a wall in Bobby Mackey's. It doesn't matter. As Mike Bowler always talks about using metaphors, it's like, I almost had that fish. But unless you actually have it mounted on your wall and have a picture taken with it, it's just a fishing story. It's the same thing. So the key part is definitely having that videography, like Patrick said, or photography, and certainly without question your audio to capture that communication back and forth.
Sounds good. Luana, anything to add on that?
No, I think I would just stress that a good team as well. I would not recommend people just do this on their own by themselves. I think the more people and the more resources you have, not necessarily big, I want to clarify that, but, have a couple people with you. And then I think also, I also, my experiences have taught me that the energy that you bring, I know a lot of you guys have said your attitude, that does make a big difference sometimes with the results that I seem to get, is having good energy. I love my recorder. I always use a camera. And I think the other thing I would stress is to really think about, the location. Think about, what maybe the claims are. Why are you there to investigate? What have people seen? And really structure good questions that, that are curious questions about, if you're really trying to communicate with perhaps a spirit that might be there, what do you want to know from them, and how could you engage them in conversation? Just like the living, I always go back to, how would you strike up a conversation and build trust? And I think that that's important to think about. in any location that you go into is that I've really tried to get away from some of the just general scripted questions to really think about what location am I at, what are people saying is happening here, and can I tailor my questions so that I can get better results and really, I love my recorder. That's my favorite piece of equipment, my EVP recorder. So.
I would agree, and I think we have similar styles in that, I approach it a lot of, and at least in some of these locations it'll work. It's been abandoned for a while of, I don't know how often people come here to talk. I don't know if you have any message, if you're still here because you have a message for somebody, but here's an opportunity to talk. And whether, I don't know, I get a lot of interaction, whether it's, style or something about me that they like, I don't know, but it seems to, that seems to work. So, definitely similar there. I see that Tracy's back. Tracy, I don't know if you heard the question. We were asking about, if somebody knew that starting this but wants to do, a really good job on investigations, what would be some of the essential things to have?
Well, first and foremost, I think they must have a basic knowledge of what they're possibly about to experience. Are they emotional? Are they emotional? Are they emotionally ready for it? Are they physically ready for it? Before I would even go to an investigation, that would be the first two things I would make sure of first. I would tell them, hey, if you're not ready in that aspect of it, then don't worry about going to Amazon and buying all the equipment, because if you're not ready, you're not ready.
That makes sense, and the only thing, I'm not going to rehash what everybody has said, because I agree with all the things here, and some other things that have come up in the chat room were common sense, a good high-resolution camera, all good things. The only thing I would add that, and it's basically been kind of hinted to in some of these other ones, is, your best, my opinion, your best piece of equipment is actually your own five senses and your own interaction with the environment. And all these other pieces of equipment that we get to validate, like George said, so that it's not a ghost story, are there to augment and to help provide a kind of objective validation of what you're seeing. But I really think it's very important to not go into a place and rely solely on these equipment things to pick things up and not be really in tune to what's going on around you, because it's really, and I really believe this because the more I've investigated, the more I've seen this, you can get attuned to kind of picking up when, I don't know whether it's an energy thing or what, but I'm sure you can all relate to this, that, you can get a feel when you're in an area that has that heavy feel to it, and 9 times out of 10 that correlates with some type of activity. So,
I agree with you, Matt. I totally agree with you, Matt. I mean, just imagine if you went into your next investigation, Matt, or anybody out there, in their next investigation, they left all their equipment at home except for a piece of paper and a pencil. And they went into the building and conducted their investigation just like they would any other time, except they had no gear. Now, does that make the evidence any less?
Well, again, it depends on, and this gets one of the things of, I was starting to respond in the chat on this, but I'll just go ahead for Adriana and kind of answer it here. On one end, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for mainly the experience and the ghost story type piece, then obviously just those senses would suffice. But as far as having something else to back it up, I'm a strong advocate of multiple things to validate that something's going on. So, good example. Right. I was just going to bring this up. Last night, we were in the OR of this place. I got the sensation twice. It literally felt like I was getting a shot in my arm. It's right where you would get a shot. It was very sharp. It happened twice. That on its own, I wouldn't have put much stock in. But what happened was I happened to have a millimeter in the hand of the arm where I had that sensation. I got a spike up to 1.4 on that, which, again, isn't huge, but the reality was I had that on the whole entire night. I didn't even register anything other than a 0 10 hours in that building other than that 1.4 that correlated with that sensation in my arm. Now, what would further validate it for me is if I ended up getting voices, kind of interacting with what I'm saying, which I haven't done the playback yet, to go on that, those three pieces would certainly be stronger than I was in an OR and felt like I got stabbed in the arm. I mean, that could have been, just my mind playing tricks on me there. So I don't know if that makes sense to everybody out there, but I always try to look for multiple things that kind of validate something's going on. But I do think as far as choosing where you go to investigate, at least personally, obviously you can hit hot spots with like static cameras and things like that. But choosing where to go and how long to stay there and things, I think a lot of it you get a feel. And I'm not saying psychic or anything like that. You can get a lot of it is kind of using your senses, and you can kind of pick up on some of these things.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Do you think, Matt and George, do you think that sometimes we rely on our equipment too much?
That's a loaded question. Here it comes down to it. I'll give you one example of the first factor of not utilizing too much equipment. Matthew and I had the privilege of working together. He was down in my neck of the woods here in Florida, and we went to the old Florida ghost town, near Ocala National Forest, with about, what would you say, about 9 people, 8 or 9 people, Matthew, I think?
Yeah, I think it was 9.
And what we experimented with is in the one building we call the Father's House, I took the kids with me. Kids are in the late teens, early 20s, and I knew if they went with me, they'd be a little bit more well-mannered, because sometimes they can get out of control and try to make fun of things. So they took it very, very seriously. Anyway, there was a young lady that was with us, one of my team member, Bob Beck's daughter, and we did an experiment on the second floor to see whether or not these, what we considered to be a portal, these entities coming through this portal could make contact. And we had her facing away from the closet towards a window, and went through a process, and she described everything that was happening to her. And we removed all of them and then brought just the men in. And I put Matthew in the same exact spot, facing away from the closet, facing the window, opposite side of the room, and went through the same process, and he had the same exact experiences, which helped validate from a personal aspect. It's just as much of a validation as any equipment collected. But here's the thing about it. We could have had a saturation of cameras in there and seen a 3-foot horned demon come out of the closet, run around the room, tap everybody on the head and run back in, and post it on YouTube, and every single individual out there, either an expert in the field or otherwise, would sit there and go, you guys use Photoshop. And the problem of it is when you see such movies out there, such as Paranormal Activity, or there was that one Grave Encounters that had come out, the movie, really great special effects. If they could do that in a movie, there's paranormal teams, I'm sure, out there that can create a false positive that they want to present out there as evidence. No matter how hard you work to present credible paranormal events and show that phenomenon to the world, someone will always be there to shoot it down because they were not physically there to experience it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, and I totally agree too on the whole. It doesn't matter what you kind of what you would kick out there. There's always going to be somebody saying that it's faked. So you got to do this. For anyone that would be interested in doing this, a big element of this has to be just fulfilling your own interest. And I think if you're kind of on a crusade to prove things to other people or argue with other people on it, you're going to be rather dissatisfied because.
Well, I don't think that anyone on the panel would probably agree. They've met skeptics, people who are pessimistic about this community, and people who are enthusiastic but have just never had the opportunity to investigate. And we give them that opening and say, hey, I've got this place that's extremely active. Let's all go. And you take them out there, and their first experiences, it's almost like taking somebody to Disney World for the first time, and you relive through their excitement your first time again. It's the same principle thing, that each and every person who goes out and gets that first paranormal encounter, that first phenomena that they experience, being touched or seeing a shadow or hearing a disembodied voice or capturing anything on the equipment, are just ecstatic about it, and it becomes an addiction for them. I agree 100%. I think it was Patrick who said it, that the passion of what you're doing in this community, with a passion of what you're doing in this field as an investigator, is key. You have to have that, because if you don't have that, you don't have anything. You can go out there to do your investigations and go through the motions, but you're not going to stay in it long unless you are absolutely drawn into what it is that we're trying to do, find answers and get those experiences. So when we go out there and I think a lot of us, when we capture evidence and we post it on our website, or we post it on YouTube, or we post it on Facebook, it's our own validation, regardless of what anybody else says. It's the same thing that I think everybody on this forum that's talking tonight has probably gotten somebody who sent you a picture of an orb and said, "Is this my grandmother?" And we all say, well, there's no way to validate it, and we don't know. You have to follow it up with EVPs. And then they send you a message back going, well, I still think it's my grandmother. It's their validation, and they want to stick to it, and that's their belief system. Who's going to change that on them? So it's the same principle thing. Somebody could take any piece of evidence that we post out there and tear it apart. But we know in our heart of hearts that when we did this, nobody else was there. That female voice that started talking, we can't explain it. All we know was that it was phenomena that we captured. And I think that's something that all of us have to hold dear to our hearts when we go out there, and not worry about the opinions of the masses, but what our own opinion is about our investigative techniques.
Yeah, I had a very interesting experience, and all kind of, again, points to credibility, but somebody that I'm friends with, we had a reunion a couple months ago, and I was talking to them, and they were mentioning about the ghost stuff I was doing, and they're like, I never hear any of the stuff you post. And that's always, the last thing you want to do is be putting things out there saying, I hear get the hell out, and everyone else is just hearing white noise. So I was talking, I'm like, you really haven't heard any of those voices? And then he admitted on the second part of it is like, well, I hear voices, but I have no way to know whether that's you or somebody else doing it. And, well, I mean, obviously, the clearer the EVP, the easier the chance could be that you're just recording somebody else. So it really, again, boils down to credibility and whether you have credibility with people that you're doing these things on. And there's always going to be somebody that's going to think that you're faking it. So, yeah, I think there's just got to be that level of self-enjoyment in it as well.
I agree.
Like you said, and, just coming off of, I guess it was 11, 12 hours in a freezing cold abandoned building, you got to really love doing this to spend a whole Saturday in an empty building freezing your butt off. So.
Or you're just plain crazy.
Yeah, well, it could be that too, but people think that already. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one from Pam in the chat room. George had mentioned it a little bit. I'm not sure. It kind of depends on how we go here. I'm not going to be too redundant if we have very similar answers here. But I'm going to start with kind of mixing up the order here. We'll start with Luana. Pam in the chat room asked, what would you use as your kind of differentiation between an intelligent versus a residual entity or interaction?
For me personally, it would have to be, I look at, is it consistent with what I'm, when I'm trying to communicate the questions I'm asking, does it fit into the scenario? Does it fit into, the questions I'm asking? If it's something random that makes no sense, I may decipher with that, that maybe that's not something that's intelligent that's talking to me. Maybe it's something residual. So that's kind of my process that I go through, is to really see, does it fit into what our scenario is. And, most of the time, I think my experiences have been that they do. When I'm asking a question, if I can get an answer to that question, then that tells me that they're responding to me. That's how I decipher it's intelligent versus residual. I've had them, I've had my name called too, which is neat. So that's that's always neat when, because my name, again, I look at the skeptical side of that, what could it be? Could it be random, radio frequencies that you're picking up? Well, Luana in Colorado is not really common, so that's another thing that I look at as well. And, I'm very aware. I always take note too of what's around me, who's around me, the conversations that we're having, because, you do as a good investigator try to debunk things as you're in, investigating and taking notes of that. So, I don't know, that's my 2 cents on it.
That makes sense. Well, I was, I'll quick comment on this, the Kerr City investigation with George, with the spirit box. Again, my last name Slozer, not very common, and to hear Matthew Slozer come over on the spirit box like 3 times. If somebody's saying my name over a radio broadcast, I'm better known than I realize. So again, it was just it's very, very weird hearing that. So I totally agree, and the more systematic, or the more specific it is, other than a yes or no, the more specific it is to the conversation, obviously the stronger the evidence is. Patrick, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with both of you, Matthew. It's to me, a residual haunting could give indications of a lot of different things, but if it's not a present intelligence that's there, then we're probably not going to get any direct responses to any of our equipment. We may be able to capture something and maybe even capture, a help me or something like that on the EVP, but we won't have any other indications that I feel that are in direct response with any other techniques that we use to try to communicate with these entities. And I agree with you, especially on the spirit box. We asked on an investigation recently, who's here with me, and got a response immediately of 3, and there was me and 2 others. And I asked for their names and immediately got both investigators' names and one of their ages. To me, that's a clear sign of intelligence. A residual being that's there, wouldn't have that information or be able to give it on a cue. So, and it's that's just, I guess that's about as simple and as basic as I can make it.
Okay. Kelly, how about you?
Oh, goodness. I'm not sure if I could add much to that. I mean...
Okay, well, we don't, I mean, if it's covered, you don't have to. I'll leave it up to you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm slowly losing my voice here.
So I'll phrase it a little differently for Tracy and George here. Tracy, anything additional to add to that?
No, I don't have anything additional to add to that, but I definitely believe you're right. With the more specific the answer is, the more intelligent it is.
And finally, George, any additional?
It's you of all people, Matthew, know that I've been training with the spirit box, and it's always constantly morphing your procedures and how you go about it. You had the first privilege to hear while we go through a full. We've done them on the radio show before. We've done them on dead air before, but doing it in person is completely different. In those circumstances, again, and I'm not by no means knocking anybody's evidence collected. I just sit there a lot of the times because of the people we've spoken to out there. David Roundtree, who is the ultimate skeptic, he'll sit there and explain things away from the aspect of science, and I cannot argue with him because it does make sense. A lot of it can be suggestion. A lot of it can be pareidolia. A lot of it can be what we've spoken about before at the beginning of the show, where people could consciously, with their own mind, project these EMF messages that come across our recorders or come across our equipment. There's a very good possibility that we are manifesting these responses. And when it comes down to a spirit box, it becomes very questionable. If you are sitting there and you're looking for a particular word on that spirit box, how many of us are here? And you could hear the time, you could hear the weather, you could hear how many people were killed in a car crash, and it could go across a multitude of different numbers, but that 3 comes up a couple of times. You're validated. Common names, John, Tammy, whatever it may be that was part of the team, could come across there. It could be mentioning other people's names as well. So we do a couple of different things, as Matt had seen at Kerr City, which is redundancy, asking the response several times over, using key phrases. If you're going to say, how many people are here, say Matthew Slozer and the number of people. We want that, the collaboration. It's just perfecting the tools that we are utilizing to make sure that we have the ultimate and optimum responses and validation that what we are doing is communicating and not just trying to add to the fervor of, I guess, pandemonium in this field. People wanted to just be able to validate what it is that they're doing. And when you're doing this for 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, you want to be able to go back and get that equipment reviewed and say, look, I've caught something. But there's been too many times I've been out there and gone through all of my camera and videography and seen nothing, got through my audio and seen nothing. But we all want to believe that we're making that communication. So sometimes just that will that we have could be our own downfall in a lot of those cases. And that's something, again, that David Roundtree brings up time and time again. So I felt part of the explanation needs to come to the fact that we are still, as I said, in the infancy stage, and we're still learning as the equipment building so quickly and being created so quickly. We're still learning each of the pieces of equipment to come out there and to best utilize it in our investigations.
Makes sense. We got a question from Drew, and this has come up with a bunch of different equipment, but we're going to make it, I'm going to phrase it specific to the spirit box, but it could relate to a lot of the investigation things in general, and that is, let me scroll back up to get the exact piece here. Most of the equipment, could you consider the spirit box essentially a virtual Ouija board? What are your? I have my own thoughts on this one, but I'll go last again here. George, what are your views on that? Is the difference between spirit box and a Ouija board?
It's not the equipment. It's not the Ouija board. It's just wood and plastic. It's the individual. The bottom line. If you're susceptible to some sort of an attack or oppression, and there are certain keys, we've talked time and time again with some of the great minds in the field, John Zaffis, Bishop James Long, that if there's somebody who has given up their will at one point in time or another in their life, whether it be to substance abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, where they've given up their will at one point in time, there leaves that gap, that opportunity for an attack from a malevolent spirit. So it's irrelevant. They can go in there with no equipment but a recorder. They can go in there, like Patrick said, with a piece of paper and a pencil, and that could be considered through the communication, that Ouija board for them. So it's not the devices. It's not any type of the equipment. It's each individual.
Tracy, your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, George hit the nail right on the head. That's why he is who he is. But, he's absolutely right. I think the Ouija board over the years has just gotten a bad rap. That's all. To me, there's really no difference than using a Ouija board than going in there and, using your recorders or the K2 or anything like that. The Ouija board was a tool to communicate with the dead, and so is our K2 meters. But he's exactly right when it comes to your own personality, your own, inside. If you're going to go out there and expect it, then that's what you're going to get.
Luana, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I would agree with what's already been stated.
Okay. So. Patrick, anything to add?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to go against the grain here. My personal issue on that is, and I'm not going to specifically comment on the Ouija board. Everybody's got their own opinions to that, and I respect them all, and I know they come from years of experience and intelligent work. The main difference that I see personally myself is that versus the Ouija board and all the other pieces of equipment, and I do totally agree that your attitude and mindset and your personal openness and everything has a great factor into it. But also the one big difference I see, and that's key to me, is that with no other piece of equipment am I inviting any type of entity or energy to interact physically with me or through me. Whether it's an EMF meter or a K2 or a Mel meter or what have you, all those things are measuring responses or recording responses. With the Ouija board, I'm actually inviting an energy to use my body physically and sort of take me over and communicate through me through the board. And that, to me, is the big difference between the two of them.
I'll just weigh in real quick that's when I said I had my view on it, that was where I make a distinction. I agree that I don't think these things can interact with anybody at any time. You know, a lot of it has to do with your mental state. But where I at least personally draw the line on things is how I view that different, even if it is, you know, wood and plastic, is inviting something to interact through me physically. In other words, to, you know, move that through my hands. That level of interaction to me crosses a line as opposed to asking questions on a box and getting responses, which to me is very little different. It's more real time than going back and listening to the recordings, but I think, you know, the spirit box is more along those lines as opposed to, I view the Ouija board more like, you know, almost like a spirit writing or a channeling type thing, which for me personally, I draw the line on those things. Kelly, I think we didn't get to you. Your voice still hanging in there?
A little bit. Oh goodness, I have too many opinions on the Ouija board, but I'm pretty much in agreement again with Patrick. This poor man's his head's gonna explode soon. But yeah, I'm gonna have to get going because I'm having a real bad issue with just not feeling good at all. I'm so sorry, guys.
That's all right. Well, we hope you feel better, Kelly.
Feel better, Kelly.
Thank you. Good night, guys.
All right. Well, we are getting. It's actually a good time. We're getting close enough to the break here. So go ahead and play a song, and I'm going to go ahead and give a little introduction to this one because, if you know, this is the end of the year song, or the end of the year show, and always at the end of the year they do their little lists of all the people that have passed on in the year prior, and so we're not going to do a list like that here on Sunday Night Dead, but we did our own version of paying tribute in an odd sort of way. So it's going to be about 5 minutes on the break song, and we will all be back. Again, you are listening to Sunday Night Dead, the opinion show. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
Just as a clue, he was 12 years old. Fell from the roof on his 2-9. Kathy was 11 when she pulled the plug. 26 reds and a bottle of wine. Bobby got leukemia, 14 years old. He looked like 55 when he died. He was a friend of mine. Those are people who died. 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 They were all my friends. They just died. She broke in church. He let the gimmicks go rotten. So they died of hepatitis in Upper Manhattan. Flying in Vietnam, pulled it in the head. Bobby OD'd on Drano on the night that he was wet. They were two more friends of mine, two more friends that died. Those are people who 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 died. They were all my friends, and they died. Mary took a drive out from a hotel room. Bobby hung himself from a cell in the twos. Judy jumped in front of a subway train. Eddie got split in the jugular vein. And Eddie, I miss you more than all the others. And I salute you, brother. Those are people who died. 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 All my friends are waiting to die. dangerous, but it sure beats Rikers. But the next day, he got offed by the very same biker. Those people who died, died. 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 All my friends who went and died. Had his different clue, he was 12 years old. Fell from the roof on East 29. Kathy was 11 when she pulled the plug on 26 Reds and a bottle of wine. Bobby got leukemia, 14 years old, looked like 65 when he died. He was a friend of mine. All the people who died, died. 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 They're all my friends when they died. In Georgia, let the gimmicks go rotten. They died of hepatitis in upper Manhattan. Flying in Vietnam, took a bullet in the head. Bobby OD'd on training on the night that he was wed. They were two more friends of mine. I miss them. They died. All the people who died, 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 died. All my friends, they just died. Mary took a drive up from a hotel room. Bobby hung himself from a cell in the tube. Judy jumped in front of the subway train, and Eddie got split in the jugular vein. Eddie, I missed you more than all the others. This song is for you, my brother. All the people who died, died. 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 They're all my friends, and they died. All the people who died, 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 died. All my friends, and they died.
This is Ignatius the Imp, and you're listening to Sunday Night Dead.
Welcome back, everybody, to the New Year's edition of Sunday Night Dead. This is Matthew Slozer here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We are having a great little opinion night roundtable here. If you are just joining us, the number is 646-929-2384, or feel free to send in a question in the chat, which I've seen a couple more have come in. Going to bring on our panel here all at once. We have Tracy from Emerald Coast. We have Patrick, Luana. Kelly had to leave us. She's under the weather, so we have filling in Mr. Ken Szymanski and George Lopez, the founder of Dead Air, the whole family of shows here. So welcome back, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, kicking off the second half here. Well, we got a question in from the chat room from David Hill asking, what are your thoughts in terms of, and I'm going to broaden his question a little bit here. He's asking specifically about running water in limestone and activity, but I'm kind of curious on a broader scale of what are your thoughts on kind of geologic water and geologic features in general and activity, whether it's, George mentioned the blue sandstone in Tala and some of these other things. What are your thoughts? Does it play a role? And if it plays a role, any theories as to what that role could be? I'll kind of kick it over to Patrick first on this one.
Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate you putting me on the spot on this one. No,
I try to spread out the paint.
No, it's fine. I've not done. I do a lot of research in a lot of different things, and even outside the paranormal, I love quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and different things. And I'm by no means, very intelligent when it comes to all this stuff, but I love to learn what I can. I've not done a lot of research in that particular aspect, sadly, and I need to, and I have a desire for it. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But I have seen some indications that geologic features do play a role. I don't know so much about the water, but I know that, you know, there's different types of whether it's limestone or quartz or different bedrock features, or, you know, maybe crystalline attributes to these features that seem to act almost like a recorder. To me, the limited research that I've done on it and seen and heard and am aware of seems to be that they almost are a recorder and are sometimes a haven for more of a residual type haunting. And I've seen it, you know, that explored a little bit. I've not run into it a lot myself, but I had an interesting thing happen not too long ago. Back in September, we had the Scarefest here in Lexington, which is a huge para-convention. And I had a lot of different vendors there actually ask me, and I spoke at great length to a lot of them. And they were overwhelmed at the amount of paranormal teams and researchers we had here in the state of Kentucky, and which is true, and it seems to be almost uncommon. And, of course, you know, Kentucky has the largest cave system in the world. They still have not found the end of it, and we're just crawling and littered with limestone deposits and some of these different interesting geological formations. Maybe it does play a part in it. How it does, how it interacts, I'm not intelligent enough to answer, but it does seem to have a role.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to go, because I know the next person here, Luana, has quite a bit of experience with different minerals, since you have a great deal of my respect anyway, but regardless of the other things, you would have my respect just for sleeping in that mine and having a rat run across you. So certainly have been held in for more than a lot of investigators I know. So very good day. What are your thoughts on the whole mineral geologic and activity piece?
You know, I would like to think that they're natural energy conductors. Limestone, quartz, water. I think that I would personally need to do some more focused research on different locations. I guess both. I mean, I've done a lot of locations, and I'll just say this. For those of you that are familiar with the Stanley Hotel, the Stanley Hotel sits on, you know, limestone and quartz, and has a lot of activity, or claim to have a lot of activity. I've done many investigations there and have also found a lot of activity. So that would lead me to believe that there could be something to that it is a natural energy conductor. Like you mentioned, I've done a lot of, I've done some investigations within different mines and different gold mines. And so I think that it's an interesting topic. I would like to actually compare to locations, because, you know, I guess I just don't have enough personal research that I've done to take note of, is it more active? Is it than locations that would not have those kinds of substances? I don't know. I'd have to do some more research on that. But I would like to think that it helps spirits and entities with providing more energy, being natural energy conductors. So anyways, my 2 cents.
All right. Ken, welcome to the roundtable. And I just learned, we're not going to talk years, but I just learned we're a day apart birthday-wise.
Yes, we are. Let's see, mine was yesterday, and my daughter's is tomorrow, and yours is...
Mine was the 28th.
Isn't it? Oh, 28th.
No, mine was Saturday, or Friday. So, anyway,
yep.
So what are your thoughts on this?
You know, again, I don't have. I'm not a geologist. However, we do. Every case we get, we do check out. We try and get a geological survey of the area, anything that's existing, and we don't get them for every single case, but for the ones we do have, they do show a higher level of limestone. So is there something to it? You know, I don't know, but it sure seems that way. I mean, it sure seems like there's a prevalent mineral is limestone. Let me rephrase that. For the ones that seem stronger, in our opinion, anyway.
Okay. Tracy, how about you? Because you're kind of in, at least geologically, I'm not a geologist either, but your area down there in Florida, you and George, I think the geology there is quite different, at least, water table-wise and things, than most of the rest of the East Coast, at least. So what are your thoughts?
I'm in the same go-kart as Patrick. I have done a little research on it, but here in Panama City, you dig 10 feet in the ground, you're going to hit water. But I haven't, so far in our investigations, I have not been able to tie the two together in one way or the other. So it's just, to be honest, it's just something I really don't worry about or look at. You know what I'm saying? It's just because of the whole area itself. Who knows? All of Florida could be sitting on one big limestone.
Gotcha. George, how about you? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you from Florida's standpoint, if sand were a paranormal conductor, we'd be rich with activity, but it's not. And I can't believe, Ken, it's been this long. More than a year ago, on Dead Air, we created a character, Ken and I. We're letting the cat out of the bag, but I think it ran its course. Ken Sominski came on as Dr. Angus McGulliver, and we created an entire persona. And I'll have Ken do a little bit of the impersonation, because if he can get into character. But what his mainstay course of research, this particular doctor that he created, was that the aspect of paranormal phenomena did not exist, that there were no spirits. When you died, that your energies were absorbed, and this is going about 2 years back, I guess. The energies were absorbed by the properties surrounding, whether it's the minerals, whether it was the plants, things that even water for that factor. And the entire room, about as busy as your chat room is tonight, was in an uproar, calling him crazy and a lunatic, and how could he say
charlatan,
as a charlatan, many different things that were being called. And yet, as we've been doing the show, and it's progressed, and we've talked to more people in the science aspect of this field, it's not too far from the truth. We've seen more and more what we talk about, that is there a possibility that these buildings are speaking to us, that the elements around us are speaking to us, that the water conductor may be what is creating the energy, not so much as enhancing it. I mean, we really don't know. But Ken, what would Dr. Angus say about this?
Well, now, George, you have to pardon me. I haven't had time to practice my brogue. But Dr. Angus might say something like, it's all about nature. Every step you take during life, you're leaving a little bit of yourself behind. Among your energy is imprinting itself on the things around you. Now, your house is made of materials. It's made of wood, and it's made of other materials that are porous, and they absorb this energy and they store it. And when the right timing comes about, it'll release it, and sometimes it's in the form of an EVP, and sometimes it's in the form of an apparition, and sometimes it's in the form of footsteps. That's what he would probably say. But it's all nature. This guy had about 18 degrees from about 20 different colleges.
We took a whole week to manifest this character, and it was all in fun. But isn't it funny, though, that it's almost come to pass that a lot of what we just created in thought patterns, and just to make a funny anecdotal interview with this fictitious character, a lot of it has come to light that there are possibilities that those geological factors in a lot of these locations may exactly be what it is that we are communicating with. You never know.
Very interesting. We're going to quick check here and see. We have someone calling in. They might have something to add to this or another question. Area code 682. You're on Sunday Night Dead. Who are we speaking with?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that Dr. Angus is keeping himself out of Gitmo.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Bowler. How are you today?
Outstanding. How is everyone?
Doing great. Having a good time here.
There you go.
Hi, Michael.
Call in, hello, and chirp in. George kind of stole my thunder there, but that was where I was going to go with the absorption that we have talked about, and some of the thoughts that we've had of actually taking a piece of an old building like that, a piece of wood, a piece of limestone, and getting it into a controlled laboratory environment and seeing what might actually happen from that. If we could tie those in together, Matthew, that'd be a question for you. Have you studied anything on those lines of anybody doing anything like that?
I personally have not. This is one area that I have not gotten too far into, but it's definitely a very interesting concept. And even like what you were just mentioning there about getting the pieces of things, could it be related to, all geology is, it's still all chemicals and chemistry. And so, when we talk about items that have things going on, whether it's, the blade of a knife or, a rock in a building or a rock underneath, is that all related in that way? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes
the
sense.
other interesting twist on that is that these elements that we feel may produce energy or absorb, as we're going here, if you built a new limestone building, most of your newer properties are not known to be haunted. So if it's producing energy and a spirit would come by as if to say this is a feeding place, almost like where you put out deer feed to attract deer, new properties are not known to attract spirits that we know of.
Okay, well, here's where I'm going to go I'm going to go off the deep end here, Mike, on a really weird tangent. But I've heard stories of, I have not investigated a place this way, but I've heard stories of people that have, gotten distressed wood or things, from old barns where there was actually something that happened, or an old house or something that happened, and then activity being in their house. So in theory, if you were mining the stone that you were using for your building from an area that maybe was the site of a Civil War battle, or, obviously nothing major like a battlefield, but somewhere where something like that happened, or a back out west when there was the Indian battles and things like that way, or something along that line, could you then transfer something into that new building where you're actually getting activity in that building that has nothing to do with the history of what happened in that building, but was related to the history of where those materials were?
Very much so. Goes right along the line with the collector, haunted collector John Zaffis. One of the first residential investigations I did back in like 05, 06 with my group. The home that we went to, she felt like she was hearing her grandmother's voice, who had been passed for several years. They had finally sold the house she lived in, and her father had asked her if she wanted any of the furniture, and she had picked up and brought home into her new home the hutch from her grandmother's house, which we were actually picking up some EMF readings off of. So we kind of tied that in right there. So
I have to quick add, I didn't think of that, not building material. I know of, I've personally done a couple, and I've known stories from some other people of associated with furniture. Anyone else in the roundtable have any experience with either building materials from another location or furniture coming to a place with activity?
Yeah, we actually did a lighthouse, and while we were investigating the lighthouse, the spirit was communicating with us through our K2s, and we narrowed it down to there was an actual sewing machine in the lighthouse, in the keeper's quarters of the lighthouse that didn't belong there. And you could go down there, you could actually physically take your K2 up to it, and you could get a slight reading off it, just enough to make the first couple lights come on. But it was the actual spirit that we were talking to is the one who told us about that sewing machine.
Here's something to throw you everybody really off the path. Let's say, again, going back to Mike Bowler goes and mines a block of blue sandstone right directly out of the mine. Now, for the next week, he keeps screaming into this block, "Go Steelers, go Steelers," over and over again. His energy imprinted. Then they take it to a building, and they put it into the structure of this building. Will that residual energy emulate itself to an investigator a year later, 2 years later, or a day later, whatever it may be, where they pick up an EVP of Go Steelers because he's imprinted that energy on that block?
George, you're giving away my secret. That's how we won 6 Super Bowls.
Hey, I'm a big Steelers fan too, so.
Interestingly, I did run across, I'll just call it a tale because I never actually spoke to the people who supposedly it happened to, but when my group went out to Gettysburg and then on to Hagerstown to work with APS earlier this year, while we were in Gettysburg, we were speaking with somebody from the town who told us of a family who had come out from, I want to say it was Nebraska. I think it was Nebraska, to Gettysburg, spent a week there, and on the basically along the Confederate lines, along Confederate Avenue, they had picked up just a couple rocks, which you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to take anything from that park, but they figured, well, this is the only time they were ever going to be out there, and much like the Brady Bunch series, when they went to Hawaii, and I think it was Greg that picked up the little tiki and took it home, and they started having all kinds of crazy stuff happen. Much like that, they actually started having activity in their house. Now, whether it was related or not, they didn't know, but then immediately what they did was to ship the box back, or ship the rocks back in a box and have someone place them roughly in the same area, but they still had activity going on in the house. So I don't know if it was actually the rocks that had done it or not, but it was odd that it all started when they returned on their trip from Gettysburg. Again, I would love to get a hold of that couple or that family and find out if it's still going on and what led them to believe that it was actually their taking of these rocks. I took an acorn from the Longstreet Memorial that's out there, the statue that's out there. There's a giant oak tree next to it, and I, with the intentions of planting it here, nothing happened to me. So I just thought that was interesting. I wonder if anyone had any experience with anything like that.
Well, I'm going to just quick add in here, Ken, because I know with your reenactments and things, do you know of anyone, or does anyone in the roundtable know anyone of? I would assume from that, then some of the collectors out there that collect things from whether it's Civil War or World War I, World War II memorabilia and things. I would think there'd be a very high level of chance of bringing activity from that. Does anyone know? Does anyone have any experiences of working with people that were collectors that had that?
I have a friend who has an entire store of, it's strictly Civil War, memorabilia. It's all Civil War. And he claims his store has stuff going on. We went out and checked it out. We didn't get anything the first night when we were out there, but we haven't made a return trip either. I have a pretty decent collection of original items, including for Christmas I just got an original cat pouch, which is in incredible condition for the age. But I have not yet had one thing. Either I'm completely oblivious, or which is not the case, or I just haven't had anything like that occur. But I do know that we have experienced things at reenactments during this 150th anniversary that we could not explain. So,
Matt. Oh, sorry, this is Luana. I just wanted to chime in real quick and tell you I had a friend whose brother was, I'm not exactly sure where he was, but he picked up some old land titles and old photographs. And the bizarre part was that he I guess he used to hit a lot of garage sales and pick up different items, and apparently he was going through a neighborhood where they were in with the trash, and he was like, why would anybody throw these away? These are like really, black and white old photographs, and he thought they were really cool, so he took them. And when he got home, the series of the next probably week to week and a half initiated just an incredible amount of things happening in their house, to the point where when he thought about it, like why all of a sudden to the point where he claims he could actually see different apparitions and things like that in their house. And he ended up putting it out with the trash. He realized, maybe there was a reason why it was sitting out. Somebody got rid of it, and so he ended up getting rid of it too. I never got to investigate that location because he was in another state, but I've heard of things like this happening, and other people that I know that collect different antiques and items have also shared some of their stories like that as well.
Yeah, Matthew, most of the people from Dead Air know this story. I've told it before, but it's something that just proves true how much energy can be kept and collected in items. But a case that we had right here where I live in Palm Coast, Florida, and the woman was a professional gemologist, traveled all over the world to gather these different gems, and in her travels she collected up authentic spears and war memorabilia, just all these different religious icons that she had, some of them carved out of elephant tusks, some out of marble, all these different things. And where we found the energy was coming from that was creating the activity in the home, high MF readings from the African ceremonial mask, and these were for a female rite of passage, going from being a girl to being a woman. And so it was an aspect of change in their lives. And this was just made of wood and grass for hair, yet it was giving off high EMF readings. So we want to do a process for elimination, and I said, let's remove these from your home and see whether or not the activity dies down. And I brought the two of them to my house. They were both put into the trunk of my car in plastic bags, white typical plastic bags. The mask was far heavier than the scepter was, but for whatever reason, when I brought it home, and again, this was a ceremonial mask of change. It was on a Tuesday. I remember it to this day because the scepter broke through the bag and landed on my second toe and cut it open. Several hours later, I got a phone call that I had been fired from my job, which I'd been there for 6 years. And just one thing after another was beginning to happen. In the process of the case, and even after the case, I was in contact with John Zaffis, told him what was going on, and I said, can I send this to you, please? And he said, okay, buddy. And they shipped it out to him. Things got better almost immediately, but it was an aspect of change, good, bad, or otherwise, how quickly that can affect the circumstances surrounding you. Whether you believe in it or not, it certainly is there. The will, the energy is certainly there. When I sent it to John, his producer for Haunted Collector was with him at his house, and they started opening up these different boxes. And when they got to my box, his producer was just about to open it, and John said, don't go near that. And they brought it right into the barn where all of his other items are collected, and he did a binding ritual and put it under glass, and it sits there to this day.
Interesting. Go ahead. I was just gonna say. I heard. Well, no, I heard somebody else. I thought somebody else had a story. So go ahead, Mike.
No, that wasn't me, Matt.
Oh, okay. Whoever was starting to talk there that I talked at the same time. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's Tracy.
Okay.
Since we're talking about imprinting on minerals and stuff, I read an article, I don't know, a couple of years ago about, I think it was the people that were in Pompeii. They actually imprinted sounds and voices onto their clay pots. Anybody heard anything like that?
One of the things I read, and not about the clay pots, but one of the things that you can kind of tie in that I read about it several years ago is that we're not far off with what we're talking about from how they originally started making vinyl records. So it's almost part of technology. It's just done in a completely different way.
Anyone else on that one? I honestly haven't done a lot of work or thought in this area, but it's definitely interesting, and these stories are definitely very intriguing now. Something to now I'm going to pay a little more attention to on this. Anyone have anything else to add on the minerals or the objects?
Nope.
No.
Okay. We'll see here. I don't know if we have. Well, I question on some of these, but we'll go there anyway. Let's see who I want to pick on. Ken.
Sure.
Demons. What are your thoughts?
I'd like to stay as far away from them as I can. However, being that I'm in two organizations that refer those kind of cases, I'm actually in the 3 years that, 2.5 years that we've been involved in those organizations, we've gotten one case, which of course turned out to be not the case. I do think they occur. I do think though they are real, I guess. However, I think they are very, very rare, and our team can, will assist people with those type of cases, but it's not something I would go into lightly.
I got now kind of a follow-up on this. I got because we've had a couple shows ago. We had an interesting talk on this whole thing about whether there seems to be some people that believe that a inhuman spirit just will not care one way or another and act very belligerent right off the bat. And then others, I'll admit, the camp that I am in is that, they are described historically as being deceptive. So I always, I always tell the story, that cute little girl holding the teddy bear could really be something, 9 feet tall with horns and a tail.
Right. Well, that's the camp that's the camp that I'm in as well. We work with. Well, everyone knows Bishop Long. We've worked with him, and through some of his assistants. They let us know. There's things you can do to kind of give you an idea what you're dealing with fairly quickly. And like I said, the one case that we did get that did sound pretty ominous, as the more we dug, I submitted a 30-page report to the bishop about this case and everything that we found. The more we dug, the more questions we had, and the further away from the demonic haunting it went. So it's just a matter to us. It was a matter of really doing our research and really dotting all the I's, so to speak, and crossing all the T's.
Makes sense. Tracy, what are your thoughts?
Pretty much along the same lines there. I believe that demons are out there. I do believe they are rare, very rare. But on the other side of that token, I believe if you go looking for them, you're going to find them.
Yep.
Well, that's my thought on them anyway. I could go in much more detail, but especially the way other, these young groups get in there, and just because a chair moves, they automatically think it's a demon because a chair moved. We don't want to go down that road.
Right.
All right, let's go to Patrick.
Yeah, I pretty much agree, Matthew, with Tracy and Ken, and I find a lot of times I get a lot of residential cases as my primary focus, and anytime anything happens, the first thought is, oh my God, I've got a demon in my house, and it is such a rare thing. I truly believe in them with all my heart. I firmly believe that they exist, and I believe that I've encountered it, along with many others in the community. It's just a rare thing, though. I had actually a team member that didn't believe in demons, and I know of another investigator that doesn't, and they just kind of go along the lines of the philosophy of, a bad, evil person in life is going to be a bad, evil person in death, and depending on how bad they are, maybe hell-bent on that destructive, scaring, harmful nature as they were in life. And I can concede that point as well, and I've seen evidence of that as well. But I do believe that there are non-human entities out there, and I believe that there might be a separation between I think there might be an entity out there that could be perceived as a demon, but maybe just from a different plane of existence or a different energy form that wasn't human, never was human, but still can cause harm and do negative things. So it's out there, and I agree with Ken and Tracy too. It's something not to be taken lightly and something to be approached with great caution. And Matt, I'm in the same camp too. As a lot of times I don't think that we get this walking into the home and getting bashed and cut and scraped and thrown, more as, you might see, crayon markings on the wall, or hear giggles and laughter from children, or maybe pleas or, requests for help from children. That they seem to be more deceptive. And when I see those things, or apparitions, or reports of, children giggling and playing and playful stuff, I'm more cautious and in tune to look for demonic activity than I am, just having a remote thrown off of a shelf. To me, that's not really what I'm looking for when I look for demonic activity. But it all varies and changes, but I firmly believe they're there.
Well, quick, I got a bunch of things here. Three things here related. I'll just kind of expand this then. One, some of this can be just a matter of semantics. So, whether it's a demon or just something that's, out there that we're interacting with that, isn't human. Regardless, this is all theory out here. We don't really know for sure what we're interacting with, and so with that respect, we don't know what the capabilities are of what we're interacting with. And if it's merely just our own thoughts, then that's great. But if there's something else to it, we don't really know what it could do. Two other real quick things on this is I'll kind of kick out to if anyone wants to weigh in on this one too as we go around. I've heard people mention a lot about evil in life, evil in death. I'm just kind of wondering, though, if, and there's no way to know this for sure, but I could see a scenario where if someone has passed on and, is still able to observe things going around here, still able to somehow interact with this realm, how they could possibly have a change of heart and kind of feel bad about things that were done and maybe be less nasty than they were in real life. And I could also see the flip side of, somebody that had, a lot of great potential or had a great thing going and then was, tragically something happened to them, being very bitter and, being maybe more negative than they were in life. So I don't know on that. And then just real quick, final other thing on this, too, is when you hear people say, I've done 100 investigations and never ran into a demon, the other question I have there, again, kind of going into the whole deceptive thing, how do you know? I mean,
right.
That implies that we have an expectation of what that would be going into an investigation. And my whole point is, since one of the things they are described as, whether you believe in them or not, is deception, I would assume that if they do exist and they are out there, they're certainly not going to act in a way that we expect them to act. Throwing all those things out there, we will kick over to Mr. Bowler. What do you think?
Well, I think they're probably limited. As Bishop James Long has told George and I, it's almost as if you need to give permission to the demon. And, it's something while you were talking about that I was thinking about that we haven't discussed a lot. George has heard me say this before. And I thought of it when we were talking about Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. How many times have we heard people say that they're in a situation where somebody was passing, and specifically with the near-death experiences, which I read a lot on, the spirit guide waiting for somebody. And if you take this to a religious manner of thinking that could be an angel, could be a spirit guide, taking them to the next side, to the other side, as some say. For those that are not going to that side, that maybe have not lived their life according to religious law, could there not be demonic spirit guides? And could that not be what we run into in some of these hospitals and some of these locations with death, is the demonic side of the guide coming after the soul?
Certainly a possibility. Anyone want to weigh in on that one?
I was going to say, other than that, the other theory I have is that Bigfoots and aliens actually tie into this, that Bigfoots are actually demons, and when they go into spirit form, they're mad because they're kind of the alien worker bee. And since they're sent down here to our planet to do things, when they go into spirit form, they torment us.
Okay. Let's go, Luana. What are your thoughts on all this?
I think as far as demons, I definitely believe that they exist. I think with working with some more experienced demonologists, I never take on a case that after I've gone through it that may appear that it could have demonic activity. I usually try to stay away from that and leave it to the pros, the experts that focus on that. But with working with demonologists, I do also agree with, to a certain extent, there's more of a contract, if you will. You have to give that demon permission. So I think that plays into a big part of some of the activity that's experienced. I agree with you. I agree with some of the perspectives as well, that there are, at least when I started in the field, there were a lot of teams that everything that happened seemed to be demonic. Everybody's always talking about all this demonic activity, and I believe it's more rare. I do believe it exists. I just don't think it exists as much as it's being portrayed as it exists. And I think that people have a difficult time differentiating. Again, as we're talking here, there's a lot of questions we all have about, what does demonic activity really look like? Is it deceptive? And so I think that there is a lot of confusion around, if something is angry. And I do share the perspective of, if you're angry and you're kind of a jerk in life, I would think that sometimes that's the way you end up in death. And that I don't know that there's really a period of time that you have. There's a time limit. Why some? I have so many questions on what really happens in that period of time after you die, maybe to make it right if you were a jerk in life. And so I think that there's, it's definitely something I think every person that is investigating should take the time to read up and know where they stand with demonic entities and know where they stand about their beliefs around that. Because I think that you need to be able to differentiate, what is truly maybe just an angry entity versus something that's really out there to deceive. And I think the other thing I just want to, and I know I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I did hear some perspectives, and I think that the deceptive manner would indicate that some of the demons would come through and pose as children and, things that we would want to help, right? But I don't believe that every time that I believe I'm working with a child, I think I'm more cautious. Like I've heard others say that that kind of makes them a little bit more cautious. But I don't believe that children aren't also stuck at certain times as well when they die. So I think that just because I believe that, I don't know, that's my belief. I don't believe that all the time that I think I may be interacting with children, maybe I'm open to the fact that maybe these truly are children too. And I think that you do get what you look for. If you're looking for darker things and you have an investigative style that would be provoking and attracting that, then that's probably more of what you'll get. So maybe could also explain sometimes why more people come in contact with darker things than others.
I would think that if it's a child that you think you're encountering, that's why we're more cautious when it's a child, because it is a child, not necessarily because it's something dark, but because it is a child and may be confused or scared and for who knows how long. Yeah. And my question would be then, if the theory is, dark or angry in life, dark and angry in death,
do you think then that if someone, say, passes who, I don't know, was in a wheelchair, had no use of their legs, do you think in the afterlife they're restored to health, or do you think that they are still in that position? Or does that depend on the way their life was?
I personally think that it just depends on a lot of different factors, and that's what why I do what I do, to research more about it, because it seems to indicate, some die maybe too suddenly, don't get to say goodbye, don't have all their business finished when they depart. And to me, I think that's what I encounter a lot of is I've had a few that I still don't even know that they were really dead. They were confused. So I don't think that necessarily just because they crossed over or they're departed, let me rephrase it, they departed, or that they necessarily instantly, are free from, or using their legs, like you gave that example. So I think that there's a lot of questions I have around that. Is there a period of time? I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. I think it's sooner for some, right?
I think romantic. Go ahead.
If I could, I'm sorry. If I could, I'd like to just expound just a little bit. The first point I'd like to make is I may have misspoke or not been very clear. I agree with you. I don't believe just because we have some type of indication that there's children present that my immediate reaction is it must be a demon. That's not the case at all. But it's just an awareness that there could be a deception here, and something to try to come to that conclusion. And I agree wholeheartedly too. We need to be careful because maybe it is a child, which was a fantastic point, very valid. The other thing I noticed is not too long ago, maybe about a year, we were on an investigation and had reports. We didn't see it during the investigation, and we was actually there on 3 different occasions, but there was a report from different children in the home that they would physically hear crystal clear their mother or their dad call their name. And they would actually even leave, the room or the bathroom or wherever they were at the time and go see what the parent wanted, only to discover later that they were actually outside, mowing the grass or, weeding the flower bed or what have you, and weren't even inside the home. That's clearly, and they would hear it in their parents' voice. It wasn't, just something saying their name or calling to them. And to me, I found that to be very deceptive. But we never found any instance of demonic activity there either. Although we did conclude the place was haunted, or had some, paranormal activity going on, if you would. But clearly nothing demonic, nothing harmful or caused any, true harm. So just even the fact that we've seen deception doesn't even truly indicate that there's a demon there.
That's a great point.
Right.
I had one quick kind of the analogy I was using with the how you're in life versus how you're in death is see if this doesn't make sense. Let me know. But think right now if you had to go back and not as a student but just kind of be in a middle school or a high school environment. Now with the knowledge and maturity that you are now. Would you treat the kids and people in there differently than you would have done when you were the same age as those kids? And so kind of where I'm going here is, we're more mature and we have more experience, but also these entities, if they are humans that have passed on, have more knowledge and experience as well, is that they know more than we do about what's on the other side. And I'm assuming that gives a different perspective. And so if they are intelligent and if they can interact, they may have a different view of things in either direction. They may, be sorry about, oh man, I should have treated those people better and have, a more sympathetic view towards certain people that they're seeing in life. Or the flip side is, they could be bitter over what they lost and be more antagonistic than they would be in real life. And so, and it's not a perfect analogy, but that's kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah, but in saying that, Matt, just, when you're talking about the demons, but just because you may run into something that may be a little angry, maybe a little upset, maybe just don't want you there, I mean, that doesn't make it a demon, by no means.
Oh, no, and I'm not saying that. I was saying more out of the, bad person in life, bad person in death. I don't know if that's necessarily... I mean, we have no way of knowing one way or another. What I'm throwing out there is I think that if there is still intelligence, which, again, we're making lots of assumptions here, but, there seems to be indication that there is, that there would also be the capacity to, given the additional perspective of passing on, viewing things differently, that maybe you don't have necessarily the exact same personality you did in life.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I was saying that sometimes it's like I wonder, if I'm a jerk up until the time I die, maybe there's a period of time where I have to come to that realization and evolve myself even in death to get to the point where I'm... Yeah, exactly. Like Scrooge.
I totally agree. If I could just ask one question of the panel before we move on. If you had an investigation where there's claims from the client that there's demonic activity, one, of course you go on an interview with the client. At that point, do you kind of feel that there's a possibility of something demonic in that house? At that point, number one, what do you do? And number two, who is the final say amongst you guys of if this thing is really demonic or not?
Anyone want to take that one?
I'll take it. I mean, the final say for us would be for Portal. we would simply go in there and document what we would try to get the activity documented, and we would submit that to one of the two organizations, either Bishop Long or Father Bob Bailey, and they would make the final determination. As far as I'm concerned, our job is simply to document. We're sort of their eyes and ears on the ground, since they can't be. They get 200, 300 emails a week. So everybody has a demon, right? And we are their eyes and ears on the ground. So my final, it wouldn't be something you would do in one night, I don't think. I think you have to do quite a bit of research and quite a bit, maybe more than one, investigation. But everything we would have would be clipped and sent, with our opinion, our personal experiences, and they would make the final determination for us, I would say, because they are the ultimate experts, in my opinion.
Okay, I'm going to quick, because we're getting close to the time limit here, quick let George weigh in here, because we've covered a couple things here going on here. George, what are your thoughts on any of these things that we're covering? Anything you would like to weigh in on?
Well, yeah, and I appreciate it. I actually would have tried to maybe even continue this conversation tomorrow night. Mike Bowler and myself do not like to go out on amateur night, New Year's Eve, so we're actually going to have our show, Primetime Paranormal, tomorrow night. So with the time remaining here, I'd like to extend that invitation to everybody who wants to come listen tomorrow night. We'll continue this discussion. I've only had one demonic encounter, but then I divorced her, so that's already been taken care of. Look, there's so many things that we have to look at. We have to look at what is the influence of the clients, what is the influence of the paranormal investigators. We all should, if we do not recognize, we all should recognize the aspect of the danger involved in what we're doing. There is risk involved. Matthew, you were with me when we were doing that whole thing with the portal in the closet, and the effects of me saying out loud in that closet, show me how you travel from your realm to this realm. And the following days where I had some kind of an oppression going on, I happened to be speaking with Jeff Belanger. He was coming on the show soon, the producer from Ghost Adventures, and I told him what was going on. He says, I've had it happen to me, George. About 3 or 4 days it'll go away. But the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions that I had after that investigation at Curse City did take its toll. And people were yelling at me, why did you do that? And I said, because it's the risks that we know that we have to take. We're trying to expound upon our knowledge in this field, and if sometimes we have to take that risk, whether it be provoking or opening ourselves up to these circumstances, we better be prepared for the results of our actions. And so people have to really be aware of the fact that anything is possible, and we still do not know what we're dealing with. I mean, we could come in contact with an Adam Lanza, the guy who did the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary. He may be serving his penance for the murders or for his own suicide for millennia. Who knows? You come in contact with someone like that, is he going to be forgiving, or is he going to be just as evil as he was in life? We don't know. This is something that we still have to contend with in our endeavors to better make this communication and better understand what it is that we're communicating with. And again, I open the opportunity up when Mike and I are on tomorrow night to continue this conversation because it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. All right. Sounds very good. So look forward to continuing that conversation. I want to take a minute here before we ran out of time to thank everyone for participating in our roundtable tonight, and want to thank all the listeners, everyone in the chat room, and everyone that listens to the show. We're in our 5th month here of Sunday Night Dead, but Dead Air has been on much longer than that. What's it been, George? 3-4 years?
Going on 5 now.
5. Okay. 5 years. So certainly check all that out. And I certainly again want to thank Mr. George Lopez for giving me the opportunity to do this show. I really enjoy it. So I'm thankful for everyone who participates and listens in. Next week, we have the first show of 2013 with one of our members of the roundtable here, Mr. Mike Bowler, and his team Ghost Cowboys will be joining us. So be sure to tune in for that on 9 o'clock on January 6th. So, guys, I want to thank you all and wish you all a Happy New Year.
Thanks for
having me on, Matthew.
All right. We will see you all next week. Happy New Year, everybody. Take care.
Happy New Year, bud.
Thanks, you too.
Mississippi, Papa was a copper and the mama was a hippie. In Alabama, she was swinging a hammer. Price you gotta pay when you break the panorama. She never knew that there was anything more than gold. What in the world does your company take me for? Black bandana, sweet Louisiana, robbing on a bank in the state of Indiana. She's a runner, rebel and a stunner. On the merry way saying, baby, what you gonna? Looking down the barrel of a hot metal 45, just another way to survive. Careless. Minnesota, North Dakota man with a gun for the quota. Down in the Badlands.